Well, happy Bulletproof Monday, everyone. I want to acknowledge you for joining a special time. And hey, listen, if you're here live, that is absolutely awesome. If you're watching on YouTube or you're watching later on or you're listening to this as a podcast, I want to acknowledge you. I love to hear from you. So you can go to susansly.com. We have a little robot on there, a drift bot. You can message me that way. You can put, if you're here on Facebook, you can put it in the chat. YouTube, I read your comments as well. So do comment. And if you have a show or a topic, or you would like for me to be a guest on your podcast, do let me know. Just reach out. I would love to assist you. So with that, Bulletproof Monday. Have you ever been driving your car and then suddenly you're at your destination and you totally forgot how you got there? Just nod your head, right? Or, you're going through life, and this happened to me this morning. Actually, I was doing my yoga class, and I go on Mondays and Wednesdays at 7 a.m. doing the yoga class, and suddenly we're going through this flow. And I think I've done this flow like hundreds of times, and I got it wrong, because my head was somewhere else, and I was kind of going on autopilot. And when everyone else was doing the side angle, I was totally doing something else that I went, oh my gosh, how did this happen? So sometimes we're going through life, not just driving our car, doing yoga. We're going through life and something happens and we get derailed. So maybe something happens with our health, or something happens with our relationships, or something happens with our careers. And we're kind of like, oh my gosh, how do we get here? Has that ever happened to anyone? And so I want to acknowledge you again for being here. If you're here live, I see Ryan, Sonia, Amber, Hadash, Shelly Jean, Linda. I want to acknowledge all of you who are here. And my goal today in every Bulletproof Monday is to really assist you with getting more productive so you can lead just a ridiculously fulfilling life. So I talk about technology strategies. I'm a tech investor. I talk about productivity because I'm a mom of 5 and I run 3 companies. And I know that you guys are just wanting to live an amazing life. And sometimes life can be challenging. Sometimes it can be downright tricky. So we're going to get into that today. Before I do, just one other quick announcement. I'm doing a 4-day event here in Scottsdale, Arizona called Only 4 Days. And this event is for you if you want to build or increase your vertical in your online business and your online brand. So I have amazing speakers coming. My friend Brennan Agronoff is coming. He was a millionaire at 16 years old. He's now 18. He built a phenomenal sock company called Hoop Swag. He's been featured in Forbes and Fortune. He's incredible. JJ Burden, who is formerly from the NFL. He's a keynote speaker, incredible. We have all sorts of tech experts. My friend Jeff Kirshner, who worked for GoDaddy for 10 years, is going to show you how to build a website with e-commerce in 90 minutes. Like, how crazy is that? It's going to be a phenomenal event. You can check it out on only4days.com. Tickets are going ridiculously fast. And you might be wondering, should I really go? Number 1, it's a business expense. Number 2, it's Scottsdale in April. It's gorgeous. Number 3, you're going to condense years of learning and headaches with digital marketing into 4 fun, amazing days. And we're going to teach you, you're going to build, and we're going to coach you in real time so you get things done. How fun is that? All right, let's get started. So you're going along in life, and suddenly it's like something happens, and it can happen to any of us. And we're like, wait a minute, this isn't what I had planned. Or my friend Michelle, she says this, she's like, this isn't the life I signed up for. And maybe it could be going through the breakdown of your marriage or relationship. Maybe it could be something that happens with your health. Maybe it could be something that happens with your business or your career. You get fired, or you get shifted, or business starts to go this way, or whatever it is. And it's so easy in the moment to begin to react as opposed to respond. Last week, I was talking to a friend of mine, Matt, and Matt is a member of Mensa. He is so smart. He's also a monk, like legit monk. I'm not even kidding you. He's amazing. And I was going through some things, and I called him up, and I had some decisions to make in different areas. And he said, Susan, you're this person who you can be learning computer code and you can be taking a class at MIT and you could be building your businesses and being a great mom. And sometimes you're so in it, you forget to step back, take some time and ask yourself how you got there. And I went, oh, that number one, I was like, that's amazing. And number two, I thought, this is really what I want to pay forward in Bulletproof Monday. So as I began to really think about that and I began to do some journaling, I came up with 5 ways we end up in situations. And here's the thing, if you don't want the situation to repeat, it's so important that you identify how you got there. It's like making a recipe, right? Have you ever had this recipe and you were super excited to make it and you started following all the steps and it turned out amazing the first time, and the next time you're kind of like, I don't need the recipe, and you start, making it and it doesn't turn out the right way? Well, one time I decided I was going to make my own version of tofurkey. So I looked all over the internet to find the best tofu turkey recipe, and it was like this one, and it looked so beautiful. And the first time I made it, it actually was pretty tasty. And the second time I made it, I was like, ooh, like it was ugly. It just looked like this white, disgusting, mushy mound. It was like not pretty at all. And I realized that I had missed a step. And the same thing is true in our lives, that sometimes it's the things we do unconsciously that end up leading us to a certain place. Does that make sense? If it does, say yes. So let's get into this first one. And the first one is you didn't learn the lesson the first time. This is one of the reasons why we end up in the same situation. So whether it's a relationship and we dated someone and it was toxic, and then we end up in another relationship and it's the same level of toxicity. So what was it we were supposed to learn? And I remember when Avery, my now 21-year-old, soon to be 22, was 5 years old. I was on a call. It was building my network marketing home-based business, and I'm on a call, and I got so frustrated with the person, I threw the phone. And she said, "What's wrong, mommy?" And I said, "Oh, this person was complaining." And and I didn't have the same level of thick skin I have now, and I took it so personally. I was in my 20s, and she said, "Mommy, here's the thing. When we don't learn the lesson the first time, God makes us go back and learn it all over again." She was 5 at the time, right? And so we end up in the same spot if we didn't learn the lesson the first time. And, one of the things is we take ourselves wherever we go. So we can join a different company, or we can go work in a different job, or we can go date a different person. But if we're taking ourselves wherever we go and the same patterns are emerging, it means we didn't learn it the first time. And I firmly believe in my heart that there are great days and growing days. And it's in this growing days where that's the opportunity to learn. And last week, I think every day was a growing day. And even today, it started out with, oh my gosh, here we grow again. And so as opposed to reacting, it's that stepping back and going, okay, what is it that I need to be learning right now so this situation doesn't repeat itself? Does that make sense? Number 2, I always take notes here for you guys. Number 2 is you made the decision based on who you were being in that moment. You were hyper emotional. How many of you have ever made a decision and you were so emotional that you immediately regret it? So you called the person and you left a nasty voicemail, or you sent a text and you're like, or an email or something. And sometimes we end up in situations because we made decisions based on emotion and not on logic. And that happens in the heat of the moment. You say that thing to your partner and you're like, oh my gosh, I can't believe I said that. And so one of the reasons we end up in those situations that we don't feel good about is because our emotions get the best of us. And write this down if you're taking notes. We want to run our emotions and not have our emotions run us. And it doesn't matter what age you are. I see it all the time where people get too emotional in certain situations. And that's why it's so important to have people around you who can help you see a different perspective. And whether that emotion is anger, whether that emotion is fear, whether it is animosity or whatever it is, any of those emotions that are so quote unquote negative are only going to yield a negative outcome. There's an ancient saying that goes like this: if you go out for revenge, you might as well bring a shovel and dig 2 graves. And what that means is essentially that any time you're casting those negative emotions against someone else, they're really going to come back to you. And so when you're looking at how you ended up in a situation, you can likely trace it back to the fact that you were making, especially situations of regret, you were making decisions based on negative emotions. And so that's a good time to journal, to really think about it, and then own your freaking stuff. I've done it myself where I left a voicemail or I sent a text and I was like, this is years ago. Now I like to wait 24 hours if I'm in the moment. But if you did something, own it, because I can promise you that person who's on the receiving end of your negative emotions, that person may be your future best friend, your future partner in life. They may be your future business partner. They may lead you to some amazing people. However, by being so emotional and so negative, you violate trust. And when you violate trust, the relationship can forever be broken. Okay. The next thing is you were running an unsupported program. So in the world of NLP, and I'm a certified NLP coach, on Friday I was doing a workshop for a tech company. And if you have a company and you want me to come in and do a workshop for you, please reach out on susansly.com. We will quote you for that. So I do workshops that are in the neighborhood of 75 minutes, right up to a whole full day. A company hired me to go to Las Vegas. I'm doing a full day event with thousands of people for them this summer. So unsupported programs are these programs we're running below the surface, and they come down to just a handful of programs. And one is, I am not lovable. Another one is, I'm not wanted. Another one is, I'm not worth it. So when we're running these programs, we make decisions based on the program. So someone who doesn't have a lot of self-worth, that I'm not worth it, they'll buy things they can't afford. They'll buy the new Louis Vuitton handbag, or the latest outfit from Christian Dior, or a big house they can't afford, because they're trying to prove their worth externally. They will also do things like, kiss up to people and different things like that. They're very attracted to celebrity because they're trying to prove at that extreme of their personality how worth it they are. People who run a program that says, I'm not lovable, they will often sabotage their relationships. They often behave like scared little children, especially. And all of these programs, I want to preface this by saying they tend to happen when we're under stress. That's the worst part of our personality. They'll sabotage the relationships with people. I'm not lovable people are more likely to have affairs. They're more likely to, get into situations where they got in the situation because they were very loving, and then they get freaked out and they sabotage it because they feel they don't deserve to be loved. And then the people who say, I'm not wanted, they'll go along and prove their worth. And then just when things start to go well, they'll do things to get pushed out of situations. They are likely to be fired from jobs. They're likely to have the spouse walk out on them. And so these different programs we run below the surface, it's so important that as we take stock, especially if there's an area of your life, as I said, your health, relationships, your finances, that isn't going the way you want, and start to look at all those times that you acted out, and is there a pattern there? And if there is, it's going to be very indicative to which program you're actually running. 2 more I want to share. Hey, Wendy, Tracy, and Kim, is The fourth one is you attracted some travelers. What I mean by this is you're going along your destination and you became influenced by the wrong people. And, it does happen to people. And you think about, I was watching the Whitney Houston biopic on the plane coming back from New York 2 weeks ago. And there's all of this, was Whitney influenced by Bobby Brown? Is that how she ended up doing all those drugs and losing her fortune and ending up dying? Or was it something else? And you begin to find out in this biopic that she was actually influenced with drugs with other people in her life. And there was a history of abuse. And there were lots of people around her who were on her payroll, kind of just there along for the ride. And you hear about celebrities who lose tens of millions of dollars and they have this posse around them that's enabling them, that aren't being truthful because they're doing something to the advantage. And you may have people in your life who've suggested that you take this course, like go down this course in life, or even suggested you not go down this course in life, and they may not be the right people. So how do you discern if someone is the right person? One way to discern if someone's the right person, how is that person living their life? And is that someone you'd like to emulate? Okay, that's one great way to do it. Number two, what is your gut telling you? Years and years ago, I worked in the correctional system in Canada. And often, when a person was arrested, and I worked in the men's side, so I am going to use the word men. When men were arrested, there was, I believe it was over 70% chance likelihood that they were on drugs or, something along those lines. And there was one person I was working with in particular. And he had grown up in a house where, both his parents had master's degrees, super, super successful family. And it started out with smoking pot, and then it went to hash, and then it went to cocaine. And he and his friends started to break into houses. Well, one day he broke into the house of a judge, and he and his friends tied them up and they stole from them. And he went right to federal prison at a very young age. And so by the time I met him and he was on my caseload, it was having these deep conversations about, how did you get here? What were those decisions? Who influenced you? And I'm so happy to say that as, part of his rehabilitation, we got him to make some better choices, and he went on to go to college and get a degree and create a career. And I'm not saying that happens all the time, but that's just an example. And I think in your heart, right now, if there are some people who are influencing you in a way that isn't positive, and or maybe you own a business and there's some staff people there that have to go because they aren't the right people. Maybe they're very highly skilled, but their attitude is like a cancer for your company and they have to go. So I want you to think deeply about that, because oftentimes this is the fourth reason out of 5. We got there because we listened to the wrong people. All right. And not everyone who gives you an opinion has the right to an opinion over your life. There are lots of people who give me opinions all the time, but I don't have to. I can hear them, but it doesn't mean I'm listening to them. Two different things. All right. The last one is and I say God on Monday, so it doesn't matter if you're Jewish or you're Christian, or maybe you're not sure what you believe, but I'm going to say God. You didn't put God first. And Vince Lombardi, he always used to say, one of the greatest football coaches of all time, he'd say, gentlemen, this is a football. And on this team, we always get our priorities straight. It's God, family, football, and don't let it deviate from that order. And God, whatever you're deciding, I mean, for me, it's God, that God is that infinite wisdom, that place that when you're heeding God, you are showing up as the best Kim and the best Tracy and the best Hadass and that best iteration of you. You're more loving, you're more gracious, you're more focused, you don't procrastinate because you're keeping all of the lightness, all of the goodness at the forefront. Does that make sense? And I know for myself, anytime I've ever been off course, it was because I was putting the wrong things at the forefront. And, maybe it was making money. Maybe it was looking or appearing a certain way, whatever it was. And I wasn't putting the right thing at the front. Right. And so with that, I would just say, regardless of where you are right now, if you're the least little bit off course, I just want to finish with an analogy. So I want you to imagine you're driving down the freeway and you're going super, super fast. So if you are in kilometers, you're going 150 kilometers an hour. And if you're in miles, you're going 90 miles an hour down this freeway. So you're probably speeding. And all it takes is that wheel is 1/18 of an inch off course, or 1/10 of a centimeter. It's not going to happen immediately. You're not going to go in the ditch, but eventually you're going to go in the ditch because you're just a little bit off course. And I would say to you today, if you're a little bit off course, take some time. Get your journal out, retrace your steps, retrace the recipe. How did you get here? Who were you listening to? Where did you not put God first? Did you make decisions that were really hyper emotional and you regret those decisions? Are they things you can clean up? Is there someone you need to call and apologize to? Is there someone you need to have compassion with today? We all get there. In that living coma we sometimes have in our lives, and we end up where we don't want to be. And the thing I will tell you is it's never too late to get back on course. So with that, I want to thank you for joining me on this Bulletproof Monday. Normally, if you're listening live or you're watching live, I am here at 3 o'clock Pacific time, at 6 Eastern Standard, or sorry, 2 o'clock Pacific, 5 Eastern Standard. So come check that out. If you're following me on social media, this week, I'm going to San Francisco for the day to work with my Radius AI development team. You can check that out. We've got some new YouTube videos coming out. And tomorrow, one of the people I admire most on YouTube, Dhruv Patel, is going to be a guest on my show. So that show is going to come out initially to my subscribers. So go ahead and go to susansly.com. And if you want today's notes, I send them out to my subscribers, and they come out usually on Tuesday, sometimes on Wednesday, depending what's going on. So just head over to susansly.com, subscribe. Now, the last thing I am going to say, in the digital marketing world, I do have an agency where we specialize in working with people in the U economy. So you are a solopreneur, you're a teacher who's a photographer at night, or maybe you have a couple of employees, but you can go to my agency site, which is www.theagency8.com. We have a special going on from now until Thursday night where you can join our agency for just the cost of your software, which is about $99, and it's just the cost of software that company is going to bill you. And you get access, you're going to get a free onboarding session with one of our certified coaches. You get access to all of our training. So do check it out, theagency8.com. With that, God bless, go rock your day, and I'll read all your comments, and I'll see you next Monday. Goodbye, everybody.